everybody to our annual Alumni Board meeting, and welcome to our guests also to the Alumni Board meeting. Now we'd like to turn it over to Dr. Johnson.
Oh, thank you. While Donna gets the presentation going, I want to say good afternoon. I'm both proud and honored to be with you today as a representative of the University of St. Francis's largest freshman class in history. Now, unlike the freshmen, now those freshmen will probably get out of here in 4 years or so. I'm hoping to hang around a little longer than that, so I'll be a super senior, maybe even a super senior. In fact, today is my very first homecoming at USF, and I've already been out early this morning working with our students in the Medellin National Tallgrass Prairie. Some of our science students are out there doing some seed collection and things like that. And they started very early this morning, especially given that last night was the homecoming dance. It was impressive to see how many students were out there. And I've just returned from watching the first half of our girls' opening CCAC soccer game, and when I left at the half, they were ahead 3-0, which in soccer is a pretty solid margin, so we'll see. I'm sure many of you remember your first homecoming and the days that followed. Days filled with learning, inspiration, study, creativity, fun, high expectations for the future, and friendships, many of which persist to this day. These thoughts and the desire to make available to future generations the growth experience that you had at the College of St. Francis, the St. Joseph School and later College of Nursing, and the University of St. Francis is the reason you commit your time, and for what I'm told, over 250 collective years serving on the Alumni Board. Now, presumably that's not one single person. That's impressive. And you commit your time, but also your treasure to supporting your alma mater as a member of the Alumni Board. And I applaud your service, and I congratulate you on dedicating today as the Alumni Board's Director's Day of Giving. I hope you had a chance to walk around your campus. If you've seen many improvements we've made, from the Mother House parking lot, which is environmentally sustainable, to classroom maintenance and upgrades, to flowers and plantings on the quad. And our running path, if you notice that up inside of the quad, is almost completed. We're also planning for the renovation of the Moe building, which is underway. Most importantly, and I'm proud to say this, we have begun construction of the new Alumni Center to be located just inside the right of our front door in the Mother House. While we had hoped to have it ready for the fall, our focus this summer has been on preparing student spaces. And I will tell you, we have painted virtually every classroom that our students use, and most of them have new carpeting in them as well. So there's the days of duct tape carpeting in the classrooms are gone. So we focused on the students. And we have begun the construction. The teardown is actually in progress for the Alumni Center and the boardroom, so I'm really excited about that. It should be completed by the end of the calendar year. Calendar, not fiscal, calendar. I'm hoping to have it ready for Christmas time. So we're really excited about that. We are having a great fall here. And as I mentioned earlier, it includes our largest freshman class ever. And it's worth noting that 68% of our freshman class are first-generation college students. So when you think about the mission of this university, we are still true to that mission. Now, those first-generation college students come with advantages and disadvantages. As we know, sometimes from an advantage perspective, these are kids, like many of you, that as the first student to go to college, they don't view college as a right. They view it as a privilege, and they're happy for every day they have here. Now, as first-generation college students, their parents and their families don't have a lot of financial capacity, so we have to work with them to ensure, and I'll give you some examples of that and what we do here later on in the speech, but to ensure that they're able to succeed and thrive here. So I'm very proud of that number, and I use it in almost every chance I can. And in addition, our residence halls are fundamentally full. Students want the on-campus life experience, and in fact, as of today, we are still running a waiting list on the residence halls, which is exciting for us. At present, we're developing a strategic plan for 2014 to 2019 in order to prepare us for our second century. That begins in 2020. And we also recognize that there are many challenges that face higher education in general and those at small private institutions like us. I'm sure you've read or heard about some of them in the news. Things like MOOCs, massive open online courses. student loan default challenges, student debt. But I think that with some of the statistics I will share with you later, St. Francis is in a particularly good spot in that regard. In general, in spite of the headlines and pundits' comments claiming the end of higher education as we know it, I, like you, believe that college is a good investment. Individuals with college degrees are more likely to find a job than those without a degree. And in fact, that's a big part of the reason why their unemployment rate at 3.9% is about half of that for those with only college diplomas. More importantly, a college degree indicates not only a level of knowledge, which is important, but it also shows the ability to stick with a goal and work on a task and achieve an objective. It also signifies responsibility, a strong work ethic, and solid communication and computer skills. That is the best of what higher education offers, and that is USF. Fortunately, we are a dynamic university, and working in concert with all of you, we can continue to define a great future for our school. Now, I will tell you, when I met with some of the freshmen, these were our freshman honor students shortly before classes began, one of the freshmen, who happens to be a freshman football player, raised his hand and he said, "So are you a teacher?" And I said, "No, I don't teach." He said, "Are you an academic advisor?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Are you a coach?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Then what are you to us?" That was actually a really good question. And while I had to stumble for a minute, I started talking about the fact that I was an advocate for the university. I'm here to advocate for the university, advocate for our students. And he kind of looked at me and he said, "It's still not working for me." And I said, "Look, I'm the cheerleader in chief." Now at that point, many of them started to grince because they started to think about me in a cheerleader's outfit. But I really think of myself as that cheerleader in chief. It's my job to carry the great story that we have to the communities we serve. But as big as I am, there's only so much I can do, and I think it's equally important for every one of you, whether you're on the alumni board or the alumni who might see or hear this talk at some future point, to be our ambassadors going forward and to help to tell our story in the community. And in that spirit, I prepared some bragging points for you, and I'm going to give you lots of interesting things. To begin with, for the 10th consecutive year, USF is in the top tier of U.S. News and World Report's best colleges. We've also been named a College of Distinction by collegesofdistinction.com, as well as a military-friendly school. The university has been listed as one of the most affordable online colleges by AC Online, and I tell you that affordable colleges measure is a very important one if you've read any of the challenges facing higher education in terms of measuring outputs. When they calculate the return on investment of a USF education, we're amongst the highest among private colleges in the state of Illinois. We're also one of the 155 colleges and universities rated best in the Midwest by the Princeton Review. You should be proud of your USF. In fact, our effectiveness and affordability as an institution is something of which we can all be proud. Our students get jobs, generally in the field of study, and handle their debt responsibly. In fact, our student outcomes are solid and effective. 96% of our nursing program graduates pass the National Council Licensure exam on their very first try. It's 100% the second time, but 96% first try. 100% of our teacher education program students complete all their state certification tests. And when we go out and we survey our graduates 6 months after graduation, those who respond to us, and we get about the same 30% response rate as any other university, those who respond report that 99% of them are either working or in graduate school. And of those that are working, 64% of our undergraduates and 86% of our graduate students are working in a job directly related to their field of study. Now, those are the kinds of statistics that you need to be proud of. I will tell you, I use them when I talk to parents of prospective students, because as a parent with 3 students in college right now, I am very much concerned about my kids graduating and getting jobs. And I think we should be proud of that. And I'll tell you why that statistic is out there in a bit, because it's part of how we do business here at USF, but we'll come back to that. Now, not only are we effective, but we are affordable. While average student debt continues to climb across all sectors, our average student debt at graduation is lower than the national, the state, and our peer institution averages. More significantly, when you look at USF students, our loan default rate is 4 times lower than the national, state, and local peer institution averages. The bottom line is that our kids are responsible in terms of what they borrow. We work with them from a financial aid perspective so they understand and they pay back their loans. As a result of being effective and affordable, our institution is strong. In combination with our strengthened financial condition, our enrollments continue to be strong, and these enrollments are the result of a solid program portfolio that builds upon a long history of innovation. We're committed to developing and offering new innovative degree programs that meet the dynamic needs not only of employers, but also of our students. An example, within the College of Business Administration, our MBA program has been revamped and now gives graduate students an opportunity to choose concentrations in business analytics. And if you read anything about big data out in the news today, business analytics, logistics, which is very important given the proximity of the intermodal transport that's going on just south of Joliet, and finance and accounting. And a concentration in sustainability, which is near and dear to our mission, is coming up in the near future. In fact, students in our MBA program are able to earn a certificate in their concentration even before they get their MBA degree, so that allows them to build credentials while they're working. Our students are receiving real-life experiences outside of the classroom. And remember, I talked about that great placement rate and how many of our students are working. That's helped in part by the fact that 45 out of our 48 undergraduate majors have internship opportunities incorporated in them. And virtually every student who graduates has some kind of experiential learning. That's important for a young person to distinguish themselves when they're out on the job market. I'm also proud of our multicultural education, recruitment, and teaching scholarship program. It's called Merit. And what that does is it's been made possible by key industry partners, is it allows students of color who are interested in majoring in education here at USF and willing to commit to 5 years of teaching in Joliet to have a full tuition scholarship. These are students who couldn't otherwise afford to go to college, but are helped by this program and that are giving back to the community, which I think is important. I will tell you that even in my short time at the University of St. Francis, I've come to understand our faculty members are world-class teachers who make educating our students their #1 priority. Our students are not only talented, but compassionate and committed to improving the lives of others through service and leadership. Our staff works tirelessly to make sure that our students succeed, and our alumni, each and every one of you in this room, are not only the best at what they do, but you credit USF for what you've accomplished. And our partners in the local community, whether they're elected officials, businesses, or other organizations, and even our neighborhood, are true partners in every sense of that word. These are exciting times for the University of St. Francis. Do we still have challenges? Absolutely. We need to continue our history of having a 6-year graduation rate that's substantially higher than the state and national averages. And that becomes an increasing challenge as we serve more and more first-generation students. And we need to continue to diversify our revenue streams by seeking to be awarded grants from the state and federal government sources to build on our history of innovation, particularly in the math and the sciences, to enhance our program portfolio and appeal more broadly to the students we like to serve. Now, I've met many of you before, and I try to get out to meet alumni whenever I can. And a lot of times, folks will grab me, whether I'm at the grocery store or out at an athletic event, and introduce themselves to me. And what I hear in all these interactions, I spend time listening about why you're bonded to USF and listening to your hopes and aspirations. And I will tell you, I think we share those because at the University of St. Francis, as Joliet's urban university, has all the pieces in place to become a leading and, in fact, the finest Catholic Franciscan institution of higher education in the country. Now, as I look around this room and having chatted with many of you, I see many who are 2- or 3-time alumni, others who are married to alums, and 1 or 2 who are students, again, in fact, one who's teaching for us as well. But all of us have one thing in common, a place in our hearts in which USF is held special. I can honestly tell you that I'm proud to be a member of the USF family, and I come in a short time to understand and share your love for this great institution. And as I've said to you before, and I say this whenever I meet with faculty or staff, I promise to work hard each and every day to earn the trust you've placed in me. I'm happy to take questions at this time, but otherwise, thank you for your support. Questions? Oh, come on, there's got to be questions. Otherwise, I've got a longer version of the speech.
So the football player who asked you the question, still with us?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And in fact, I had lunch with him and a few of the other football players the other day, and I asked him if he remembered asking that question, and he did. And he happens to be redshirted this season through no fault of mine, because we brought in a very large freshman class of football players. Some of them are trying to save their eligibility. But he's a good guy, and he remembers my answer too. And by the way, that freshman football player was an honor student. Just remember that. And I think if you look at our coaches, and athletics is not why we're here. We're an institution of higher learning. But if you talk to our coaches, almost every single one, I haven't found the exception yet, but I haven't met all of our coaches. First thing they'll tell you about their kids is what their GPA was. Talk to Coach Curry on the field today. He'll tell you last spring our football GPA was 3.06, which is pretty darn impressive. So they put it in perspective. And I will tell you the other thing that Curry does is he goes around and makes sure his football students are sitting in the front row of classes. Because he says if you're in the front row, the teacher will know that you're paying attention or know if you need help. And he checks on them, which is pretty, and the kids know that too. Now what's not so great is whenever we have staff meetings, the football coaches sit in the front because they want to model good behavior. So when you're talking to a big group of people and you basically see an offensive line, it's a little scary. But they're great guys, because none of our coaches are, I don't think any of them were quarterbacks. I think they're all either defensive line guys or offensive line guys. And if any of you are watching this on TV, we love you anyway. Okay. Good question. Others? Yes? Just.
How do you promote the Catholic, Christian, Franciscan piece?
Well, that's a good question, and that is the core of who we are. What we're doing this year is our focus is on the charism of service right now, and so our students are understanding, and in fact, tomorrow afternoon, having a discussion of what service means to them within our Franciscan charism. We obviously have lots of activities through university ministry on campus each and every day as well, including Mass on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We also have prayer services on Tuesday, Thursday. But we're trying to get it out into their lives on a day-in, day-in basis. And I will tell you, frank chants is what they're called here, are a great way of doing it in a way that's non-threatening to them, but lets them have those kinds of dialogues. In their core classes as well, they get that opportunity. One of the religion courses that they take is a core class in theology of the Catholic Church. And that's an important element of their core education that every student takes. I will tell you that freshman class, if I remember the statistic right, 55% are Catholic. And virtually all of the others are other Christian denominations, but 55% Catholic, so that's still running strong here. Right? Yes?
I'm glad that we have you. I'm very proud to say you're our president. I also work here, and one thing that I like to add in, I hear a lot about our campus-based things that are going on, and off campus, we have our adult programs as well, which I know you're working on with us. And we're proud to say that we're with Advocate Christ Hospital for a bachelor's and master's in health administration. We also have Advocate Good Stand that offers a bachelor's in healthcare leadership. And we're also partnered with Joliet Junior College to bring our Bridge Nursing Program, to bring them from their RN to their BSN program. And we have folks around the country that have done programs with us too, that will be giving us service hopefully, and I know Donna's working on that with them. So that's something I'm very proud of for our adult audience. I think oftentimes we forget about them, but they have gone through their programs just like all of us that are working adults. And they give back to the university, even though they're not always seen because they may be online or in other states. So I just want us to keep them in mind too today, that they give back to us quite a bit too. And I'm hoping our service projects are going to be a reflection of that too with our adult audience and our graduates.
I agree, and I think they will. And in fact, I'm proud to say that when we brought on 6 new trustees this year, one of those trustees is an alum from a degree completion program. And so we needed that voice on the board, and I think that's important. His name's Mike Dow, if any of you know him. He's going to be a great trustee. And he will speak to the impact that the degree completion program will have on him. I will tell you that the market for undergraduate education is probably stronger for us right now than the graduate programs. The graduate programs, it's a tough market, and degree completion in particular. But they've got some new and innovative things going on there to really keep that strong. And I'm looking forward to see how the recruitment goes in the spring for that. Yeah, we tend to talk a lot about our undergraduates and a little about our graduates, but we forget that half of our students are graduate students, and we have to recognize them too, absolutely. Other thoughts, questions, concerns, evil rumors you've heard?
Arvid, I will like to say that I'm so excited that we have the very prominent sign now in front of the Mother House, which really, and with the addition of the new signs by the city noting that this is USF's area, do we have other plans to maybe include that same sign on other parts of the campus, which kind of build on a big long-term plan for growth and development here?
The thing that we will be working on at the same time we're working on the strategic plan for the next 5 years is a campus master plan to identify what we're going to do in terms of ways to enter the campus, and quite honestly, what buildings, if any, we need. I will say that we need more residence hall space, that's clear. And given our strength in math and sciences, I firmly believe we need a science building. Okay, and the question is where we can spot it, and then how we can make it happen. And I will tell you, we've already had some discussions with the faculty and others to get them to understand that while we might want a $50 million science building, which is what they've asked for 4 or 5 times, we will never build a science building like that. That's just not us. And so the question is, what can we do for maybe $9 to $12 million that will advance who we are and that we can then add on to as needed? And I think that there's growing support because people want to see something done rather than talked about. And we need to, part of what I need to do is help us to focus, because we tend to try to do a lot and nothing happens. And by the way, that's not USF, that's all companies. Focus is key, and so we want to find those few key things to focus on. And I will be happy to share those with you as we identify them. Right now, the faculty are off working on their strategic plans in the schools that we will then roll up to the university level to figure out where we go next. Any questions on the phone?
I don't really have any, but this is Linda, but I found the questions already asked in your remarks very enlightening. So I guess the only question I had in the back of my mind is I had heard basically through the grapevine that you were right at the start of your presidency, were out fundraising for the school and meeting with major donors. And I do know from reading your CV that you have an impressive amount of patents, in your own right. I'm just wondering if you're looking at any particular businesses outside of the Joliet area, any businesses that might, partner with the school or provide some financial capital or programs, I'm just that's kind of in the back of my mind. I know there's individual donors, but I'm just wondering if you're looking more at corporate America or where you're looking.
That's a great question, and I'll give you a relatively short answer, and then I'll expound on it a little bit because I want to give you the full answer too. That is something we definitely have in mind going forward, and in fact, part of what we're trying to do is to expand the Board of Trustees to have a less Joliet-centric focus. Nothing wrong with Joliet, but if we want to have a larger footprint, we have students across the country. Many of whom may not have come to this campus. We need to have that representation across the country of the board, so that will help there. A little longer answer is, my focus initially has been on meeting and understanding our existing donor base. And I will tell you that it's not as strong as I might have hoped, because that will be a major factor as we go forward and try to scope our plans. But I think it was important for me to try and get out and meet with as many of our donors as possible to get that assessment. That donor base is committed to us, but it's unlikely to grow substantially without branching out both geographically and with some key strategic programs. You know, one way to do that doesn't even necessarily involve businesses, but if we can get grant money that helps us to do things we want to do and we can show good purposes, and particularly in math and science, we may be able to leverage things there. And there are companies who are interested in doing that, foundations too. So.
Yes, you know, that's, if I could just mention a kind of a follow-up question. You know, when you were talking, I was just thinking about the major universities have Office of Sponsored Programs where they do submit proposals to different granting organizations, you know, the foundations. And I don't think we're doing that at St. Francis. I know we're a small school, but and that would have to be really a strategic decision there, you know, how much of that to do and how much effort to put into writing grant proposals to foundations, which you'd have to, you know up front that they were interested in funding you. And there are quite a few in the Chicagoland area, foundations, I mean, you know, so that might be a possibility to just get some kind of funding from them to whatever they're particularly interested in funding. So I think they're MacArthur and McCormick in Chicago, I believe. Some of the, I know there's some big foundations in the Chicagoland area. So, anyway, thanks very much for your response on that. You know, in my opinion, we have to look at different ways of getting funding into the school, in addition to what we've been doing as, you know, individual donors or whatever. So it can never hurt to broaden that base, you know.
Well, I will tell you, we don't have an Office of Sponsored Research. We're not that kind of university. But what we do have is we actually have an agreement with a professional grant writing company that gives us surge capacity for writing grants. You know, if we had a professional grant writer on staff for us, most of the time he or she would have very little to do. And then if we had 2 or 3 grants at once, they would be swamped. So one of the things that University Relations has done has gotten us a block of time with a professional grant writing company so that, you know, if we need 2 people, we need 3 people, we need 4 people, and then don't need anyone, we can get them as needed. And we have as one of our objectives, one of the things I said here, is trying to increase funding from that source. I think that's very important. And having worked with a lot of the foundations in the Chicago area, admittedly at another institution, but having worked with a lot of these foundations, you know, we understand what they really want and what they're looking for. And a lot of that really dovetails well with what we do. In particular, entrepreneurship within our College of Business and Health Administration. There's a lot of interest in building on entrepreneurship. And that's something that plays to our sweet spot, especially as a first-generation college student university.
Well, thank you very much.
Other questions? Thanks for your time and attention. You always know how to get a hold of me. My email is easy. It's arvid@stfrancis.edu. And if you're into this stuff, you can follow me on Twitter, okay? Thank you.